Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. I am your host, the Church of Failure, and with me as always is my trusty co-host, Ayrton McCartney. How you doing today, buddy?
I finally got my cigar lit, so I'm doing good.
I was hoping I'd get to make a joke about a fan kicking your ass, but...
Hey, I've been drinking beer since I got home from work, so...
Well, I'm drinking rye whiskey right now.
That's besides the point. Anyways, you forgot to remind the folks...
Oh, no, we're not sponsored by... We're not sponsored by Blue Coal tonight.
Oh, we're not. Oh, okay.
No, we're not playing any Shadow tonight, which is probably why no one really... Oh, Dan Diego. Did I... damn it! Nice, thank you. I was thinking about Dan DiDio. We have a Dan DiDio segment coming up. I'll just change that on the fly. Nobody will notice that except for 3 people watching. That'll be an Easter egg. Thank you, Becky.
You know what would be real nice?
What's that?
If I could see the screen.
Yeah, that would be nice, but I mean, why would I do that? There you go, big baby. Anyway,
I mean, I can do this blind if you want.
I mean, I think it's more interesting when you do.
Fair.
You guys will have to forgive me. I'm going to have to hit my cough switch a little more often than usual tonight. I've got a little bit of an itch in the back of my throat. Anyway, real quick, shout out Mr. Deadman, Jesse at the Dead Man Tone podcast. He worked with me for an hour to work my audio to a point where I could do something that we weren't able to do previously without multiple devices and a lot of headache. So if there's
a lot of headsets.
Yeah. And how's it going, Danielle? If there's any issues, anybody coming through low, anybody coming through high, any audio problems at all, just let me know and I'll see if I can fix it. I'll probably just break everything again, and that'll be fun. We'll just end the show with me drunkenly cursing at the computer, and the stream will violently end when I throw my laptop out the window. It'll be great.
And then we'll go viral.
Right, yeah. Oh, right. Becky, do you want on the call since you're now a co-host? I know you have no show prep whatsoever, but we're going to have to change your icon and everything. Anyway. Yeah, no takesy backsies. I said it. Anyway, talking about San Diego Comic-Con today. Not the most exciting topic we could talk about. There are plenty of other sources you can look for. But
not as entertaining as us.
As far as this week in comics goes, it is literally all about San Diego Comic-Con, even though there's very little to do with comics at Comic-Con anymore. I do believe they still have like artist alleys and stuff like that. There's plenty of panels. Peter Simeti, unfortunately, was not able to make it to the Alterna panel this year, but we did have the West Coast Alterna Assemble. That was pretty fantastic. A couple of interesting tidbits that I pulled to talk about tonight in the form of articles. Couple of, just things we wanted to make notes on. I guess the first piece of business, Ayrton, don't I have to fire you a couple of times? I'm not sure.
Hey,
I've lost count at this point.
I helped you with those technical issues before the show.
I
I think I should not be fired this week.
You know that's not going to happen.
Hey,
we saw what happened the last time I gave you any form of praise whatsoever. You missed a show and a half. So. But anyway,
I didn't say praise. I just said not firing.
Oh well, you know, tomato, I guess.
There's a distinction. You know, like soup and chowder, like they're kind of the same, but not quite.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know. Like I said, pretty dull weeks in comic releases. I did promise Danielle that I would fire you 2 or 3 times for disappearing and not showing up on time. I mean, I have to give the people what they want.
I got kidnapped by midgets.
That's no excuse of mine. It's not my fault that I hired midgets. I hired midgets to come find you, and then, apparently they went rogue.
You know, there was a lot of them. They started singing. It was weird. I didn't know what to do.
You play guitar to back them up, duh.
I didn't have a guitar on me. I just had beer.
What good is a guitarist without a guitar on him?
Oh, wait, did I have a guitar on me?
I'm sure you did.
I did have my guitar with me, actually. Damn it.
All right, so on to serious business. Ayrton, you're fired. That's one.
Damn it.
Comic-Con has kind of become renowned for the trailers that are released during the year. It's almost like the Super Bowl for nerd culture trailers. So I figured we'd kind of list those off and talk about ones that we were either excited about or felt oddly about.
Or disdain.
A lot of disdain. Or ones that we had no idea were happening. So, to kick that off, looks like they released a trailer for Top Gun Maverick, which Tom Cruise is revitalizing his role as Maverick in the military franchise. Anthony Edwards obviously died in the original Goose, but apparently his son will be back in the form of Miles Teller. So,
why?
I don't. At least it's an adaptation with one of the original actors.
But, I'm just so sick of it.
Look. At least it's not Brie Larson in the cockpit of a fucking fighter jet calling her Maverick. And then we get to hear how misogynist the name Maverick is.
Yeah, but it's just like the damn Lion King movie that's literally shot-for-shot remake.
In CG?
Yeah, what's the point? It doesn't even look good anymore.
Yeah, well, that's what that happens. Personally, I don't care one way or the other about Top Gun Maverick. I mean, I figured if they were going to do something like this, they would have done it a lot sooner, but, Top Gun kind of
the principle of it.
Yeah, and I'm normally with you, but when it comes to something that I don't give a shit about, like Top Gun, by all means, have it. And let's be frank.
That's fair.
Let's be frank here. Top Gun's become kind of a cultural meme in the last few years. I mean, Goose and Maverick, that whole pair has become more notable in the mainstream than it was even after the release of the movie.
True.
I think the show Eastbound and Down that Mrs. Church, for whatever reason, decided she was going to start watching, and for whatever reason, I watched as well. There was even a reference to Top Gun by the main character of that show and his best friend, and they kept going around talking about who was Tom Cruise and who was Goose because they couldn't remember the guy's name was Maverick. And then one of them died, and he said, well, he's dead now. That means he's Goose. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Fair.
But, you know, Top Gun, it's worked its way back into the cultural forefront, so it makes sense. One thing I have no idea about, though, that I'm being promised armored polar bears in, is his dark materials. What? Yeah. So his Dark Materials is apparently a trailer for an HBO series, I believe, that's coming out. But there's talk of an armored polar bear. So
yes, please click that link. I need to see this.
Yes. HBO's next fantasy epic has an armored polar bear. Okay, so we were trying to figure out whether or not we should watch a trailer on stream because it's definitely going to get its hit for acclaim. So we're going to have to pull this one up for you guys because there's an armored polar bear. That's what I'm going to name the link to. Armored polar bear. And we're gonna take the copyright claim on this because, well, we're not making any money anyway. So why the hell not?
Yeah, exactly. And we'll end up calling somebody a cuck at some point in the show. So
absolutely. Let me pause that real quick. Nope. Stop doing what I don't want you to, YouTube. So we'll.
It's like magic that I can hear this.
Right. That's something. Again, shout out to Jesse from the Dead Man's Tome helping me work this out. So, anyway, with the new audio setup, you'll be able to hear the trailer. Not Jesse, Ayrton. The chat will be able to see and hear it. If it's low or anything like that, let me know. I can adjust that on the fly. If you see anything before I do, Ayrton, let me know. And we will go ahead and pull this up. And then I will see. I can actually separate our audio out now, guys. It's fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, don't.
Gentlemen, there is a war raging right now with the Magisterium, between those trying to keep us in ignorance and those willing to fight for truth. Who will stand with me?
This kind of heresy is of the highest priority to the Magisterium. I need to know where he's going and what he intends to achieve.
Gronk was packing up to leave.
You're not leaving!
I can't stay! The North is no place for a child.
Myra, the Master's asked if I can find a place for you. And I want you as my assistant.
You're an explorer too, just like my uncle.
I can teach you to wield power, but you must let me mold you.
We believe there is
Alright, I'm going to pause it at 48 seconds. First off, where the fuck are the polar bears? Like, all I'm seeing is a lot of dress fitting.
I don't care about the rest of this. Just show the polar bears.
Okay, Becky's saying they can't hear it, so, alright. Well, that's why we ask. We'll back it up. We'll back it up. I'll go and I'll up the audio here. And,
again.
Yeah, I'm muting us again.
Gentlemen, there is a war raging right now with the Magisterium, between those trying to keep us in ignorance and those willing to fight for truth and freedom. Who will stand with me?
This kind of heresy is of the highest priority to the Magisterium. I need to know where he's going and what he intends to achieve.
Gronk was packing up to leave.
You're not leaving!
I can't stay! The North is no place for a child.
Myra, the Master's asked if I can find a place for you. want you as my assistant.
You're an explorer too, just like my uncle.
I can teach you to wield power, but you must let me mold you.
We believe there is an organization that is stealing children and taking them north.
Sometimes children can just disappear.
I promised to do everything I could to protect you from harm. This, it's an alethiometer. It is illegal unless approved by the Magisterium.
What does it do?
It tells you the truth. She has to make a journey. One which I'm afraid includes a great betrayal.
Was that a big ass guillotine? Was that like a
Yeah,
scissor guillotine?
Well, and wait, what the hell was before that? Like a monkey attacked the girl?
I think
I have
so.
no idea what's going on. I have
Like,
no idea what's going on.
I don't either, but all of it looks interesting except the dress fitting at the beginning. Like I don't know if it's disproportionate, but the entire first minute of this was like a bad session at a tailor.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this at this point. We have dress fittings, then a
Okay, so they're saying it's
damn
still low,
guillotine
but
and monkey
better.
attack.
They're saying it's still low but better. So I'm gonna open up this godforsaken voice meter thing.
Yeah. Which channel is the audio coming through?
I have to go look at that. I'm not familiar enough with it yet. I'm a terrible
okay.
human being. Settings.
We're doing it live.
We are. We do everything live. That's not true. I also was not coming through, so it's the aux input. So what I can do is I can raise the gain on the aux input.
Yeah.
Fader gain. That's aux. So we'll raise that there. No.
Put it all the way up.
Don't tell me how to live my damn life.
Hey, who's the one that deals with sound more often?
Look. Don't go flexing on me, okay, chump? What's going on, Matt? Anyway, yeah, we'll restart this trailer at 1:36. Matt, we're watching the trailer for his Dark Materials. I think it's about a dress that they're trying to make for a polar bear.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, so we'll see what's going on. We're gonna mute ourselves again and play this one more time.
It's trying to warn me of something.
I suspect it's trying to warn you of everything.
He scores me. I can fight. And I can fly.
What question should we be asking you that we are not?
The Magisterium have muscle. I would ask where I could obtain the services of an armored bear.
Yorick Bernison. I'm ready to fight.
These people need our help, Yorick. Let's go get it.
How am I supposed to trust you when no one tells me the truth?
It's time.
I know.
Okay, all right. So armored polar bear, that gets a pass. I'm still not sure it's something that I would want to watch religiously or whatever. But I definitely want to see the armored polar bear part at least those few episodes. Was the audio any better?
Hopefully
on
it
that
shows up episode, or else I'm not going to watch.
Yeah. Have to show up in episode 1. In fact, the show can only be about the polar bear.
Yeah, from then on out. Like, as long as I don't kill the polar bear off.
Right. I just have no idea what it's about, Danielle. Like that's my only issue. I'm not crapping on it or anything. It just seems so disjointed. Oh God, we've already got a comment on that. There's a novel trilogy for kids. TSS Clemsford on Clemsford, I think. I'm sorry if I butchered that, on Twitter. It says, your study of his Dark Materials trailer got me thinking about the Philip Pullman novel trilogy for kids. The animals are demons, and they are attached to each human they pair with. The big guillotine is a gateway. Huh.
Interesting.
A little bit. Still low. Now, I upped it a lot. Interesting. Maybe it was just that trailer.
Like, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. She said it was still low, though. So, obviously, not enough. But we'll screw around with that. We'll see if we can. Yeah, that's what they're talking about. It's the Golden Compass. Yeah, you got it. You got it, Daniel. See, we got smart people in the audience.
Oh, I've heard that name before. I know I think it's about. I remember with like old Hometown in that movie.
I believe everything you just said, but I didn't hear a word of it.
Damn it.
Yeah, we're screwing around with my mic and sound settings. I may have to go into the actual sound settings and look at that. Let's see here. Aux input. We'll look at that. Yeah, the levels are up. General properties. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. Yeah, I'll have to play around with that. My audio sounds staticky. Oh boy. I should have not ever tried to make anything better. I should have just left it all well enough alone. Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
Damn.
Yeah. It hasn't gotten any better this time like it usually does. Luckily now I can mute you for the people and they can still hear me and whatever I play, so you can figure it out without being gargled. Oh. What it was is his connection was shit. It just disconnected us, it seems. There we go. Much better. Yeah, much better. You're back.
All right.
You disconnected for a minute.
I think you still have my channel muted though. Oh, there.
No,
you go.
I don't.
It took a second to catch up.
Look, man, don't accuse me of things. All right. I want to mute you. I'll mute you.
There's like a 2-second delay on the screen share. All right.
It is a Logitech mic. Too much treble in my tin can. Oh God.
Really? You guys think he sounds trebly?
I can edit that too, but the more edits I do, the further I'm getting away from God.
You know, we kind of have like topics to talk about, people.
Nah, we can just do an audio show. We'll just rename it. Is that
so
any
if you
better
take that
at all?
shift we were messing. I didn't actually see what you did, but if you take that shifter we were messing with earlier and move it to the left a little bit, it should get rid of your trebleness a tad.
What shifter? Which one?
The echo and pitch one.
This one? Move it to the left there.
I don't know. Screen share's frozen. We're just having a great show today, folks.
It is. This is fantastic. This is exactly what I wanted to do when I got on air. Not talk about anything that has anything to do with comic books.
See, we appreciate everybody who's here listening, but y'all are a little too picky.
No, don't listen to him. I wanted to be good. I wanted to sound good, and I only have the one machine to test this shit on, and I detest listening to myself. Although I can listen to myself now, so I mean, I sound good to me, but
yeah, I don't hear you super sounding trebly. Yeah, move it a little bit. Yeah, where you're at now, move that a little bit more to the left, and then that'll take out
more to the
more
left?
of the treble. Just a hair, just a little bit.
Like that.
Yeah, you should be good.
Okay. Becky's saying you're gonna get fired. Is that any better? Any worse? Should I just sit here and drink whiskey and fuck with audio settings and not say anything? That would be good. That'd be a hell of a show.
I think you sound fine. You sound fine on my end. So
okay.
I don't know if you want, I can mute everything here and pull up the stream and see.
You're actually owed 2 more firings, Danielle. But if I don't get this mic system set up, I'm not going to have time to fire him. He's my audio guy. Oh, it's the Logitech mic. They all sound like that. Okay. Yeah, then I sound like this at the beginning. Like, what are people talking about?
Sound like an
just
old
do a whiskey
radio caller
review
from the 30s.
Well, tonight I'm drinking a 4-year Templeton Rye whiskey from Prohibition-era recipes. It is called The Good Stuff and has some Prohibition-style gentlemen in suits and fedoras. Actual fedoras, not trilbies, on the label. Good packaging. It comes in the 750 milliliter bottle in the same shape as the monkey shoulder bottle with the synthetic cork built into the cap. It is a 40% rye whiskey, and it is delicious. The tagline is, Uncle Al's favorite whiskey was the good stuff. Produced and bottled by Templeton Rye Spirits, LLC, Templeton, Indiana. Distilled in Indiana. So, that's what I'm drinking tonight. It's fantastic. I don't usually like rye whiskey, but usually Ayrton, can you fix the stream from last night? Oh, what? I know what she's talking about. I'll talk to you about after the show. But I've only had bad rye whiskey before, so I was a little weirded out. But as I've started drinking, better whiskeys, I went for something close to the mid-shelf that was on sale, and I'm not disappointed by it. It's a little more burn in the chest than I'm used to, but it's got more of a vanilla finish than I expected. It doesn't actually even taste bad on the tongue. So, I don't mind it. I think the only thing that separates this from being a bourbon is the fact that there's not quite 51% corn in it, though. So.
And I just say then that the cigar I'm smoking is amazing.
Well, now that we've seemed to iron out most of the audio issues, and I've done my whiskey review for the evening, let's get into San Diego Comic-Con. The 50th annual San Diego Comic-Con started this year, and why are my kids still awake and yelling at each other at 11 o'clock at night?
Because it wouldn't be one of our shows without it?
It really wouldn't. Ayrton found this article that I'm going to go ahead and bring up on screen for you guys. I guess I need to put it in regular mode so you can read it too. Or are you just going to pull it up?
I can bring it up separately.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just pull it up.
Alright, so San Diego Comic-Con is turning 50, and here is this origin story from NPR by Petra Meyer. Says, 50 years? Oh.
Almost there.
Oh,
okay, I'm there.
Am I waiting on you now? Are you the audience? Yep. Good to know. You sure you're ready?
Well, I want to make sure I know where we're at. I want to interject my, brilliant insight into this.
Matt Christie, yes, I am an East Coast plebeian, so I am not part of San Diego Comic-Con. Why do you ask? I figured my southern accent would give the fact that I'm from the East Coast away, because once you get past, I don't know, Kentucky, Tennessee,
the Mississippi River.
No, if you get to Mississippi and you find somebody that sounds like me, you let me know. That is a whole different breed of redneck down there, son.
That's a good point.
50 years ago, a bunch of comic fans in San Diego decided they wanted a way to meet other fans. They were mostly teenagers. Okay, and 2 adults. I gotta stop there. First off, don't fucking talk to me in your article. Don't treat your article like it's a conversation, because it's one way. They were mostly teenagers, and 2 adults would suffice. But no, you have to interject an okay and 2 adults, like you were caught in a lie. But I didn't say that shit to you. You just decided to write it like that. Because you're... Sorry.
And what's with the dashes? Shouldn't those be commas?
Right. Well, they already have a comma, so wouldn't one be a semicolon and the other be a comma? But
True.
Still.
If we're going full Oxford.
Oh. But what they created became a pop culture phenomenon that we know as San Diego Comic-Con. Today, Roger Friedman is a physics professor, but in 1969 he was 17 years old and he had no idea what he was about to get himself into. Quote, I think it's fair to say that if you had come to know us and how Comic-Con was going to evolve, we would have said, A, what are you smoking? And B, where can we buy some? So, my kind of people. Understandably.
This was 1969 after all.
This is on the West Coast. If you do, then they moved. Salt Spring Island, BC. They're trying to reach the youngins. Yeah, because youngins actually read this shit. No, youngins listen to YouTube for their news. It all started with a guy named Shel Dorf.
Or read BuzzFeed.
Yeah. It all started with a guy named Shel Dorf, one of only 2 adults involved with the first convention. Dorf had some experience attending and planning conventions, and more importantly, he had connections. He knew Jack Kirby, the legendary co-founder.
What? Sorry, he had experience attending conventions.
Attending and planning.
When I first read this.
Attending and planning.
Yes, but attending.
Right. Well, the conventions were.
Just say he had experience planning them. Who cares if he attended them?
Well, I mean, I guess back then conventions were a lot smaller and a lot more niche. So, I mean, even someone who only has experience in attending one would be better suited to start one than someone who just decided they were going to start a meet and greet.
I guess. I don't know. It just sounds weird.
He had connections. He knew Jack Kirby, the legendary co-creator of characters of the X-Men and Fantastic Four. And Kirby was willing to talk to a bunch of kids. That's creepy. I think we thought the comic creator lived on some comic book Olympus Mountain and couldn't be approached by normal mortals like us, says Mike Towery, who was 14 when he got involved with the convention committee. 14 years old and on a committee. God, people used to be so much more driven than they are today. And then to find out that we could actually meet them and talk to them one-on-one, and then have a convention where they would just come and we could get to hang out with them was just kind of mind-blowing. In fact, Kirby ended up drawing the original convention committee into one of his comics. So Jack Kirby drew 6 of us San Diego comic fans as characters, Towery said. We were a futuristic rock band, and there were secretly evil minions of Darkseid, and we went up against Superman and we trash-talked him. And we took off in our boom tube. That's fantastic.
Which, if I'm going to be drawn by Jack Kirby as anything, that's kind of what I would want to.
How's it going, Lee Walton in the chat? Nice to see you here, buddy. So yeah, not I don't know. Like, I think comic creators now think of themselves like people thought about comic creators back then. Like, I think they live on a mountain in Olympus.
They think they're like rock stars, or
yeah. It was Kirby who came closest to realizing what Comic-Con could be. Towery remembers the con's crew's first visit to Kirby's house in Irvine, California, late in 1969, and the advice he gave them, I can speak. Do it all, Kirby said. I know that comic fans have also been interested in movie media, they're interested in the pulp media, and all that has some value to them. I think they want to see it. I don't think they just want to concentrate on comic alone. If you can widen the scope of the convention to include all of these, I think you'll have a larger crowd and a more interesting crowd. I think you'll have a great time. So, if anybody wants to blame anybody for the fact that Comic-Con is no longer about comics, right there, proof is in the pudding, Jack Kirby's fault.
Which is so sad to say, because he's such an American treasure.
Yeah, and, I get the idea, but I think it should, if it's going to be called Comic-Con, I think it should be predominantly about comics.
Well, here in Michigan, they actually call it the Pop Culture and Comic Book Convention.
See, that's better.
Yeah.
Standing on the packed show floor with the 50th Comic-Con, it seems like Kirby's vision has been fulfilled. More than 130,000 people are expected to attend this year. They're here for comics, yes, but they're here for their favorite movies, TV shows, books, and toys. It's a far cry from the 300 people who gathered in the basement of San Diego's U.S. Grant Hotel in the summer of 1970 to see Kirby and the equally legendary sci-fi author Ray Bradbury, Scott Shaw. Another member of the... See? What is that? Scott Shaw! ! Fucking... They paid somebody for this. NPR paid somebody to write this.
Technically, we paid somebody to write it.
Well, actually, I clicked on it so that 6 people could read it without having
to. Fair enough.
Another member of the original convention committee, Scott Shaw, was an aspiring cartoonist then and a professional now, and yes, that exclamation point is part of his name. No, the fuck it isn't. Bullshit, me. Exclamation points are clicks in people's name. His name would have to be Scott Shaw. I'm sorry if that was offensive. He might be
Sandy Beige number 42.
He might be Sandy Beige number 3.5. Have you seen Scott Shaw? It was really just a bunch of tables like this with cardboard boxes with comics, he says. I would say I only know one woman that showed up, and that was a fan of comics. For the most part, it was teenage boys. That one woman, he says, was Jackie Estrada. I only went there for 3 hours, and it was in the basement of a hotel, she remembers. And there was Jack Kirby and Ray Bradbury, so for a fan of both of those to go and just hear them talk, I mean, what more could you want?
According to Wikipedia, it says his name is often spelled with the exclamation mark.
Are you shitting me?
No.
And now I just hate him.
It's
I just hate him now. Like, no. Yes, Jackie Estrada is here today. In fact, she's been at every single Comic-Con. These days, she even works for the convention running the annual Will Eisner Comic Industry Awards. And of course, she's far from the only woman at Comic-Con. And not just women. People of all genders, ethnicity, and ages are milling around on the floor today. Not all changes have been positive. When the convention was as big as this one is, you'll lose something. Jim Lee met with fans, went back to the hotel room, drew pictures, and met with fans. They would kind of wander into the rooms all night long, draw till like 3 in the morning, get some sleep, and go back to the convention. Lee says he began to notice things changing in the 90s and the early 2000s. But now, today, you'll have, like, all of Hollywood here. So, you don't have the stars, but you have agents and managers, so there's a whole stratification of the show. See, she doubled up the of. They, him, I don't want to assume. The show,
well,
which I think
that would be the editor. That would be the editor's fault for not catching it.
Do you think anybody that puts an article out on the internet uses a fucking editor anymore?
Well, if it's for like a major organization like NPR, I would hope so.
This is not a newspaper, Ayrton. These people don't care. These people don't give a shit about the quality of anything they're putting out. Anyway.
Apparently.
Yeah,
all those damn dashes.
Right. Where was I? Come on. Stars, agent of the show, I think. Wasn't there early on. Mike Towery missed that easy anything goes feels of the early Comic-Con so much, in fact, that he founded a new convention in 2012, San Diego Comic Fest. Roger Friedman runs the science programming. What?
No idea. I thought you might know.
But he still loves coming to the big show. Yeah, see, this is just poorly written. But he still loves coming. Somebody likened it once to the concerts, he said. There's a big stadium concert with the pyrotechnic and the Jumbotron, and that's Comic-Con. And then there's a small club date where maybe you get right up to the stage, and after it, the band comes down to mingle with the audience. And they're both great experiences, and I can't see anybody not liking both. See, again, doubles. What did you send me? You're technically the editor on this. I'm just a reader.
How am I the editor?
Well, you read it first.
I did. I noticed the doubles. I figured it would annoy you. But I figured, well, when the author said...
Just for that, Ayrton, here you go, Danielle. You're fucking fired. Jesus Christ.
No.
Actually, you know what?
Seriously, though, I thought you would get more pissed off about the people of all genders line earlier in the article.
I just let it go, man, because we're on YouTube. I just let it go. But you know what? I'm gonna give Danielle a treat here since I got all this audio shit set up. Here we go. You ready? You ready for this? Ayrton,
oh, shit.
You're fired. See, there you go. There you go, folks. I do that for y'all. Anyway,
I kind of have to take it because that was too fantastic.
Anyway, yeah, those red squiggly lines no longer exist. I think that's the problem this article had. There's only 2 more paragraphs, so this is kind of a long one, but it does talk about the history and the startup of Comic-Con. So, no matter how big the big show gets, though, people still find fellowship here and new things to get enthusiastic about. The doors have been open for less than an hour, and I've run into two people that I've known since the early 90s. People I've known since the 80s, says Jackie Estrada. You just pick up the same conversation that you had a year ago, and it's like you've never been apart for that long a time. Shel Dorf died a few years ago, but most of his young protégés are still alive. Still friends, and they're still here. They're the famous quotation from a science fiction fandom around the 40s and 50s. It is a proud and lonely thing to be a fan, says Roger Friedman. But things have changed dramatically since then. I think you'd be hard put to find anyone in the United States today who does not know what Comic-Con is. And that's a really complete transformation. And to feel that we had a small part in that transformation is a very remarkable feeling. This piece was edited for radio by Nina Gregory and adapted for web by Petra Mayer. So, it was edited, and the editor did a shitty job.
Ha.
So, there you go, folks. That's the history of Comic-Con. We're going to have to find something a little shorter to bring up next time. That was a little longer. Did you like that, Danielle? Was that what you wanted? I hope you enjoyed it. I have the big booming voice of God thing going on. Speaking of the voice of God, one of the trailers that came out from Comic-Con this year, since we just kind of segued away from that, was Preacher, Volume 4, Series 4. So, another show that they have completely gutted and bastardized from the comic book origins. You know anything about?
I bet you're thrilled about this.
Oh, absolutely. I was hoping it would die like another show that was revealed at Comic-Con for a final season is Arrow. So, anybody remember 20 years ago when Arrow first started airing on the CW? The show's been going on longer than I've had
finally
kids.
killing it off?
Thank God, yes. Someone actually noted the other day that the second generation of the CW broadcast were all basically just either like none of them were straight white men. None of the heroes are straight white men. Both of the Arrow's kids are gay. His son and his daughter are both gay.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, the Flash's daughter is also gay. Batwoman is gay. There's not even any straight women, I just realized, in the Generation 2 of the CW DC. So, what are you going to do?
Oh, hold on a sec. I gotta go open this new jug of bleach.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I mean, as long as it's for the cause.
Yeah, always.
Anyway, moving on. A couple of other trailers that looked interesting. Well, one that didn't. She-Ra Season 3 was confirmed. That's terrible. Walking Dead Season 10. Never know when they're going to kill that shit off. So, they revealed an untitled Walking Dead movie, and they released a trailer for it. So basically what they're telling me is they put a trailer together without giving us a name for this fucking movie. So when people talk about it, they'll have to say, The Walking Dead Movie.
Walking Dead the movie.
Right, and that's not good.
To say.
That's not good for branding if they're actually going to change the actual title of the fucking movie. I mean, if it's going to be Walking Dead the movie, then fine. But you know, Fear the Walking Dead Season 5 trailer, highly controversial one. The Witcher. I believe those were novels to begin with, and then they were adapted to video games. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, if you know, but...
No, I know the name. I know it's a thing that exists. That's about it.
Apparently, Henry Cavill is going to take on the lead role as Geralt, a monster hunter who may have some monsters of his own.
Gross.
Yeah. So... not. I don't know. I think they also misappropriated another redhead in that show, and that offends me.
Highly offensive.
Stephen King, George A. Romero film series with an all-star cast, Creepshow, was released as a trailer. It Chapter 2 trailer was released. I think we've already had one or two of those. Yeah. Well, they had to split it up into 2 movies. Yeah. Mayans MC Season 2. I didn't know Season 1 was out, so probably a smart thing to advertise at Comic-Con. Nobody fucking knows your show exists. Steven Universe, the movie. Oh, here we go.
Ah, gross.
Watchmen, is it Netflix? What is it? HBO, so it'll be on Hulu. If they keep that license. Yeah, The Witcher with the Polish historical folklore series. We've got some readers in the chat. That's fantastic.
Nice.
Watchmen, though. How do you feel about The Watchmen as a... Did you ever read the comic? I'm sure you've seen the movie, but did you ever read the comic?
Actually, I haven't seen the movie, believe it or not.
Did you read the comic?
Not really, no.
Oh, God damn it. I was about to be really proud of you.
You know better than that, come on.
The disdain for it in Ayrton's voice just killed me.
It was so bad. It wasn't clever. It wasn't well written. It was stupid. Stop remaking shit. It's pissing me off at this point.
Well, I mean, they've been doing that for 30 fucking years, man. I mean, Dr. Doolittle was a, 60s movie or some shit? Before Eddie Murphy remade it, same with the Nutty Professor?
And the 60s movies were great. Knock it off.
Right. Yeah. Come up with some original ideas so we can shit on those if they're bad. Don't latch on to something like Ghostbusters or Terminator or...
At least if you're going to do Ghostbusters, pair it with Transformers like they're doing right now in the comics. Jeez.
Alan Moore puts me off of it, but I saw the movie. Alan Moore used to be a decent writer, believe it or not. Now, he has made a statement about Comicsgate in recent months that have put me off of him as a writer, but as I had to do with Mark Waid, I had to literally do something that I don't even believe is a thing that's possible. And that is try and separate the art from the artist. Because when I was a wee lad of 20-something and read Irredeemable and Incorruptible the first time by Mark Waid and read Kingdom Come, all of these books are fantastic and they all have his name on them. I can't take away... Right. Now, don't get me wrong, Lee. Alan Moore has often been known for, drinking absinthe and smoking opium and sitting naked in his bathtub and typing his comic scripts.
Is that not what people typically do on the weekends?
I mean, I usually mix a little LSD in, but sure.
Oh, okay. I mean, teach their own.
Yeah, mix a little LSD into the absinthe, so I guarantee that I'll see something. But that was a joke, YouTube. It was a joke.
Oh yeah, that's right. We can't make jokes anymore.
No,
I'm sorry.
You can't make with the sarcasm or the funny.
I completely apologize for everything I've ever said that's been remarkably sarcastic.
That's sarcasm, isn't it?
No, not at all.
But Watchmen, the comic book was fucking amazing. It really captured the beat of the era that it was written for. There was a side plot of a kid reading a comic book at a newsstand and his relationship with the guy that ran the newsstand.
Sounds cool.
And the story that kid was reading was actually interspersed in the actual story. So every couple of issues, you'd see like a 2 or 3 page excerpt of the story this kid's reading. You got frequent entries from Rorschach's journal. They touched on pieces of history while still talking on the same main timeline that they were writing on. It was very nuanced. It was a masterwork for its time. It was one of the movies that deserved to be, or one of the comics that deserved to be adapted into a movie. And in all honesty, just being completely fair, the movie was pretty good as an adaptation. Yeah, all except the ending. But the theme was the same. In the comic books, the ending is the smartest man in the world has set up basically a kill switch that's going to unite the world in the midst of World War III. And in the books, that kill switch are giant alien tentacle monsters. Jalian. I just made that up. I'm not even on my second scotch yet. My second rye yet, guys.
We got some Jalians coming down to join the Crazens.
I was about to call up Crazens, yeah. But no, it was really good. Now they're making a TV show for it on HBO, and one of the favorite characters of the Watchmen was a character called Rorschach. Rorschach was essentially the Question from DC Comics. He literally probably the most iconic piece of the Watchmen, even though they had a blue guy with an atomic symbol on his forehead. But when you think about Watchmen, you think about that smiley face button from the comedian, and you think about Rorschach and that fucking Rorschach mask. Yeah, it's an old sailor story, Lee. It's really good. It's just enough of a break from the story to disconnect you so that you'll be thrust back into it when you start back. It's literally amazing writing. It reminds me of Dan Alinsky's writing in House of Leaves, the way the different threads mesh together so perfectly. But that's just me. Anyway, Rorschach, fan favorite character from The Watchmen. I rambled. I'm sorry. I'm not, but no. So I saw
Isn't that kind of necessary for a podcast?
Well, I mean, if you would talk more, it wouldn't be, but I'm not complaining. I was going to make a joke.
You could go in.
I was going to make a joke about being able to mute you and that being the best thing about the new setup, but... let's see here. I'm trying to find a tweet.
Something about Twitter.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a tweet that actually encompasses my feelings about this pretty perfectly from Von Klaus, and we talked about him on the show before. At Rise Again, at _ Rise Again _. But Von Klaus, he is the creator of Monster MD on Indiegogo. I think you have like 8 days left to back that, so definitely go do that. He put out a tweet and he's like, HBO, hey kids, you like Watchmen? And, oh yeah, HBO, like Rorschach? Who doesn't? He's a cult of white supremacists now. Fuck you, fascists. Fuck you. Please subscribe. And that's 100% what it feels like, because all of these trailers they've released have just turned me off of one of the greatest franchises in comic history that I've ever thought about. Because there's enough well, DC put out a short line called Before Watchmen, after The Watchmen came out of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of material between before Watchmen, the Watchmen movie, and even stories that could be told after the end of the Watchmen movie. But, you know, if they're just going to keep being woke and destroying these properties, like, it's all going to burn. Like, nobody wants to see this crap. Star Trek Discovery spinoff, Star Trek Short Treks, was released. I have no idea what that is, but the Star Trek Discovery spinoff continues, this time focusing on the crew of the USS Enterprise, Captain Pike, Spock, and Number One, as does H. John Benjamin, who reboots Trouble with Tribbles. 3 episodes will focus on these characters. Yeah, they're remaking Star Trek episodes, apparently.
Why?
Because it's like Danielle said, our generation has they have no new ideas. There's nothing new that can be created. Unless, of course, you're a conservative.
Robert Plant
but I didn't say that.
famously said Robert Plant famously said there's nothing new under the sun when they were criticized for using old blues songs for their first record.
I don't know if you guys caught that, but I just pulled the cork again. Fuck this shit.
And that's pertinent because Zeppelin turns 50 this year, as well as Comic-Con.
Oh, well, thank you for bringing that to the table.
You're welcome.
Now, one Star Trek announcement that I was pretty interested in, Star Trek Picard. This is the first full trailer for CBS All Access Star Trek The Next Generation continuation. The former captain's keeping Data's body in a drawer. And to the return...
I had an ex-girlfriend like that.
What the fuck is this shit? Is nobody paying attention to what they're writing anymore? The second instance of I've seen today. Oh, Jesus Christ. The biggest surprise is how amazing it looks.
Writers out there, red squiggle means you spelled it wrong. Blue squiggle means your grammar's fucked up.
Lee had it right, man. They've taken the red squiggle away because that's offensive to people that can't spell. It's offensive to spell shit wrong. That's why spelling's not important anymore. And they accept wrong answers in math class for full credit. Generation's fucked.
I need more bleach.
Yeah, you going through that bottle already?
Yeah.
Season 3 of Westworld, which I'm actually excited about. I really hope they don't fuck Westworld up. Because I've loved the first 2 seasons so far. Damn it, if they fuck Westworld up, I might have to go to Area 51 in Minecraft. They're the teaser for The Expanse on Prime, teaser for Impulse, Snowpiercer got an official trailer, TV adaptation. Talked about Arrow. Season 5 of Supergirl got
Really? That's still good?
Yeah, Supergirl's only 5 seasons in. Arrow's in season 8. We did learn earlier this year that that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is finally coming to an end, though. So that's it for trailers. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They even attribute this shit to editors. Like, apparently editors and writers are the same fucking thing. Anyway, real quick shout out to Dead Man's Tome. They're over there going through the TCPA documents after Ricada's show last night. So yeah, definitely go check them out. We got some other stories to talk about from Comic-Con though. Those were really just the trailers and the history of Comic-Con. Let's start off with a little bit of a palate cleanser, why don't we? Let's just go for
please.
something that hopefully won't piss me off to an umpteenth degree.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, so let's get it set up here before I make it go live. There we go. Alright, so anybody who's been watching for any length of time whatsoever knows that this channel has spent a significant amount of time talking about Lock and Key. So, with the advent of the new show coming out on Netflix, it's, pretty expected that we're going to get a panel on Lock and Key. But Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez showed up to do the panel, and they actually took questions. And this is basically a short and sweet, simplified version of that panel. So, this is from Newsarama. I would definitely say check them out as far as this goes and read through the whole thing. We're only going to hit a couple of high notes. I think it was about an hour-long panel. That seems to be the average length of a Comic-Con panel. But
yeah,
as Lock and Key prepped to finally make it to TV, creators Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez has returned with a new one-shot debuting here at Comic-Con International San Diego titled Lock and Key Nailed It. So we'll be reviewing that on the show as soon as we can get our hands on a copy. They'll be talking about that and more in the Lock and Key panel, so follow along. And if you'll follow along as part of Newsarama's wall-to-wall coverage of SDDC, whatever. Alright. So, when they do their introduction, they talk to Gabriel Rodriguez about drawing comics. He says he likes to work chronologically in the order of a story, which isn't uncommon. Some creators jump around, but he says it makes it easier for him and helps the work of the colorist and letterer. So, really nice guy there. But one thing that they talk about is how when Joe wrote The End, and then 5 minutes later he's like, okay, how do we get back? Talking about the end of the main series. So they've gone into the past, but they're also going into the future. So a little further down, they take some questions from the audience, and one of the questions they started talking about here. Here we go. Tyler is 19 in the comic. Joe started talking about future story ideas. What if Tyler can still remember magic? So that'll be interesting. It'll break one of the tropes they've set, but he's still young enough, I guess, to at least remember partially what it meant.
Well, and it could have something to do with the Alpha Key.
Right. Key House is reborn, and there's a whole new Key House for the comic. So Tyler makes his own key house with a key. Gabe was talking about the creation of architectural blueprints, which Joe says he totally ignored. He said the house isn't going to be, the rooms aren't going to be fixed in place. That'll be interesting.
Weird.
But they talk about how they're going to go into the family story, and they're looking at a 6 and 7 book series called World War Key. Which this is my first piece of criticism with this, and it's not a bad one, but when I was younger, and back when I still had hopes and dreams, I played this game called Kingdom Hearts. And if any of you know what Kingdom Hearts are, the story revolves around magical keyblades. And the War of the Keys is, basically Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, the reason I say hopes and dreams is because Kingdom Hearts 1 came out And then a year or two later, Kingdom Hearts 2 came out. And then 20 fucking years later, Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. Okay. Bullshit. I don't
Always
give a
leave
shit
them
about...
wanting more.
Yeah, well, you know, they did that for 2 or 3 years, and they did it for like 10. Fuck them. I don't even own the system that game's playable on anymore. But anyway, no, World War Key. I mean, it does. You know, the War of the Keyblade. A little too convenient. You know, Kingdom Hearts came out last year. Now we get World War Key. Come on, Joe. Don't be lazy. Don't let me down here. I don't want to see somebody with a key sword. Joe continues, the book would take place during the present and the past, and the first book would be called Revolution. The second book would be called Resurrection. And this would be about the idea that the past is never gone and it's never really even the past, and the book would stay closer to the present day. There will be a 2-issue story that'll take Locke and Keyhouse to places you never thought we'd go. The creators promise unlike anything they've ever done before. I don't believe that. You've done several volumes of Lock and Key. It's going to be a little like those.
Probably a tad.
Yeah. So, they go on to talk about families don't have a single story. There's a lot of wealth to reap from that. Joe talks about his love for Sherlock Holmes and Arthur Conan Doyle, and how Arthur Conan Doyle didn't give a shit. That's pretty fantastic. What do you mean
Doyle
they
is
aren't?
pretty great. I will have to say.
What do you mean they aren't the same, Daniel? I don't know what you're referring to. Tomato potato. Tomato potato.
Sure.
Yeah, Gabriel Rodriguez says that we're basically trying to be forced to not have to make a retcon key. They talked about, they touch on Bodhi's death. Joe says, weirdly, the best thing that could have ever happened to us was Hulu not picking up the show. So I think that's kind of interesting. It took the better part of a decade for this idea to finally make it to TV. These books started coming out almost 10 years ago, if not a little over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but Joe Hill's talking about it.
Netflix, right? That's slotted to pick it up now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Joe Hill's talking about his new project coming this winter, Dying is Easy. We also briefly touched on this show his him having an imprint with DC Comics. You remember that
right.
discussion? It's a horror imprint called Hill House. So I don't know if Dying is Easy is going to be a part of that. I don't remember that being one of the titles that they slotted, but he's still going to be doing work for IDW, so he's not exclusive to DC, which gives me a little bit of hope for his creative integrity.
Yeah, that is nice. Can you imagine a bunch of monster dicks everywhere?
He said Dying is Easy will be starring S.T. Holmes, an insulting detective. S.T. is short for shit talk. And then they get to the Q&A.
I need to read this already.
Yeah, the Q&A is the best part. How did they translate the key head, or the head key for Netflix? Was it difficult? It was hard, but they solved it. They cracked it. Bodhi being dead, didn't he die? Everybody accepts he's not dead. Gabriel and Joe said they both wanted to play with the idea of this is how we deceive ourselves. Question, there's a lot of psychological elements in Lock and Key series. I was wondering just how much research you did about it. Joe says, I always thought it was cool to introduce supernatural element that could be explained in some sort of psychological component. And Gabe says, one of the happy problems of making comic books is incredibly slow, it's painfully slow, but it allowed a lot of improvising along the way and happy accidents. So,
Any other interesting questions?
I'm loading them now. How do you avoid
Okay.
burnout? The alternative is having a legitimate job. Two final questions that I think they really only had one. If there was one key you could try in life, what would it be? And Gabe says, please make the anywhere key happen. And that's pretty much the end of that story. But yeah,
No one asked him about not using his dad's name.
No, nobody asked him
Really?
about being
No.
Joe King.
That's shocking, because that would be the only question I would ask.
Yeah. What did you choose the name Hill because Joe King would just never get you taken seriously?
Yeah, exactly.
Or are you a bastard that was born in the hills of Westeros? Because, they name their kids after, hill, river, snow.
Yeah, Crick.
But yeah, that's something I'm definitely looking forward to. Like, I'd love to see how they adapt it. I don't have a lot of faith that it's going to be fantastic by any means, but I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt without just telling it to get off my lawn when it immediately shows up.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what exactly they do with it. Do we remember who the actors are? Are they good?
I do remember being questionable on them.
Okay.
No, not directly.
I can't remember.
Not directly. I don't know.
I'll look it up.
While you do that, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. One of the comic type discussions that we saw from Comic-Con this year was the release.
You mean the only one?
No, there were 2 or 3 that I saw.
Okay.
But Game of Thrones advertisement there. Pay me. This is a short one, so don't worry. SDCC 2019, Neil Gaiman and Mark Buckingham to return to Marvel for Marvel Comics 1000. There's going to be some more announced over time. The Marvel panel, I think, just started about 2 hours before the show went live, so, obviously San Diego Comic-Con still going on until tomorrow, I think. But it goes as followed. It was a big day for Marvel at San Diego Comic-Con as more news is revealed about this week in Marvel's panel. Marvel Editor-in-Chief C.B. Cebulski revealed that creators working on Marvel Comics 1000 and the names are big, Neil Gaiman and Mark Buckingham, globally acclaimed at the House of Ideas for their previous work on Miracle Man, which, that's a story we're going to have to take a look at one day, because even though the story isn't, like, the end-all, be-all of comics, the history of the character Miracle Man is fucking fascinating. That character has gone through so many licensing issues, so many different prints, so many court battles. I mean, it's kind of a fascinating thing to look at the history of that comic book. Gaiman and Buckingham are returning to Marvel to contribute to the massive creative collaboration of 80 teams for a supersized issue celebrating Marvel's 80th anniversary. So, I wonder, are they going to do some cringy shit like 80 pages, 80 creators, or 80 teams, or some shit? I wonder if they're going to try an 80 up DC's 52 thing.
Please don't.
In addition to Gaiman,
My Bleach budget is going to go through the roof.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's something you can write off on your taxes because it's a work expense.
Ah, good point. I'll ask my accountant about that.
Excuse me, Senor Sheckelstein. Sobolski also received even more creators joining, revealed even more creators joining the Marvel Comics 1000 lineup creative team of David Mandrell and Butch Juice, and Jason Reynolds and Patrick O'Keefe will be joining the star-studded list. I literally have no idea who any of those people are. Including Al Ewing, Adam Kubert, Alex Ross. See, I know that one. Gail Simone, I know her. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. What? What?
What?
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the man that put his foot in the middle of Bruce Lee's chest. Holy shit, I'm going to have to look into this now. Chris Claremont,
That can't be right.
Chris Claremont, Peter David, and Mark Waid. I think they just started amping up the names. You know, Alex Ross, oh, he's pretty big. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Did they just like pull names out of a hat? Like, okay, you're gonna get to
Chuck
write a
Norris.
story. You're gonna get to write a story.
Chuck Norris writing for Marvel number 1000. Marvel 1000 hits the stand Wednesday, August 28th, which is relatively close to my birthday if anybody wants to gift it to me. Just saying. Oh, never mind. Captain Marvel's on the cover.
Gross.
But now I did pull up a second source on this particular title, just so we could kind of take a closer look at what exactly Marvel number 1000 is slated to be. You ready for this? This is directly from Marvel Comics now. This is on their website.
Okay.
The greatest talent ever assembled for one story. This is the big one. In celebration of Marvel's 80th anniversary, we have gathered together the greatest array of talent ever to be assembled between the cover of a single comic book. Named from the past.
Abdul-Jabbar?
That's right. He can play basketball. That's a hell of a talent that's never been in a comic book before.
You got me there.
Names from the past, present, and even the future. They went into the future, Ayrton.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, they went. They some of these names we're not going to hear about for another 10, 20 years, man. Right. No, so one of them hasn't even been born yet.
It doesn't surprise me.
All right. Yeah. And Mrs. Church just chimed in. And one of them hasn't even been born yet. That's fantastic. Every page is filled with all new work in this cavalcade of comic book luminaries. They're the mystery threads throughout the Marvel Universe. One that has its origins in Marvel Comics number 1, which unites a desperate array of heroes and villains throughout the decades. What is the Eternity Mask? Well, I'm assuming it's the mask that grants the bearer the power of eternity.
You know, you would assume.
And who is responsible for the conspiracy to keep it hidden? Anyone with any fucking sense. Eternity represents the entirety of the multiverse, you dumb shits. Everyone wants to keep it hidden. What new player will be making their startling debut with the secrets are peeled away? I don't know, that baby that you pulled from the future to scribble on these fucking pages? Featuring the entirety of the Marvel Universe of characters. Now I'm just going to let that marinate for a moment, folks. Let's just think about this. There are literally Thousands.
Am I getting heat stroke from the past few days up here in Michigan? Like, I heard everything you said correctly, right?
You heard it. I don't think it's heat
Okay.
stroke. I think you're just, I think your brain is just trying to process that shit. And your brain is going, wait, no, I'm just gonna kill him. I'm just gonna put him out of our misery. So
I hope that's all it is.
I don't know. I'm sure there'll be some good stuff in this, but I hate gimmick numbering first and foremost. Okay. I hate the idea of gimmick numbering. Marvel and DC have both been notorious for renumbering series in order to hit landmark episodes or issues or whatever. Like we just had Action and DC and Detective Comics number 1000 from DC this year. I think there were a couple of like 500 or 250 or some shit issues from Marvel last year that were fairly important. But it's confusing to the readers. It serves no purpose except to pat your own self on the back. And honestly, neither one of the big two deserve a fucking pat on the back after their work for the last 10 years. They both need to...
But does that mean we could start tomorrow with our official episode 1?
Yes, and then in 2 weeks
and then
we'll go back to proper numbering.
Yeah.
We'll just you got it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
just check.
But yeah, so do I need to refresh the chat or has it just been quiet? I don't mind that it's been quiet. I'm just making sure I haven't missed anything. No, I want to read this. I really do. I think it could be interesting. I love anthology books. I've always loved anthology books. It's more story for your money. But this just seems like a big endeavor to set out and try and accomplish well.
And a giant gimmick.
Well, absolutely. But I mean, even Secret Wars was a giant gimmick, and it was done well.
True. But did Secret Wars have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar rating in for it?
No, but it was retconned in 2015 that Deadpool was the original owner of the symbiote. And that's why it's crazy.
Because of course it was.
Yeah, that's why it's crazy. So, that's some of the comic news coming out of there. Obviously, Neil Gaiman, very large name in just the literary community, not just comics. Another thing I found interesting, 0 page count. That's just what's listed. They haven't figured out how many pages it's going to be, because I guess it hasn't. This son of a bitch would have to go to production. It's only a month out. This motherfucker's being
and they don't
solicited.
know how many pages it is.
Well, they don't have it on their website. That's for damn sure.
What the hell, Marvel?
Yeah.
What are you doing with all that Disney money?
Pissing it away rather quickly. Paying untalented actors or untalented writers and artists to create shit comic books that don't sell. Oh, you didn't want an actual answer.
Oh no, I did. I just figured you had more to say on it.
Another piece of comic book related news that I found pretty interesting out of Comic-Con was one of the most expensive comic books there is Amazing Fantasy number 15. Those of you that don't know, that's the first appearance of Spider-Man. Which is why Spider-Man...
Now, what's that going for?
That's $1.1 million.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Yeah, someone will totally buy it at the convention.
Right, yeah.
Just walking around with their checkbooks. Because people still use checkbooks.
Dude, you'd be surprised. Like, you do
Really?
realize that the main creator or the main actors for Game of Thrones and other TV shows are there, right? People that get paid millions of dollars.
Yeah, but I guess I'm looking at it from like the ground. Normal
Nick Cage
people
is
going
probably there.
standpoint.
Nick Cage is probably there, and he used to own at least a copy of Action Comics #1. That's a $3.5 million book.
I don't know. It seems like that would be something you would put in like an auction house, and like.
I think it's there for the novelty. Honestly, I think it's there for people to bring people over to his booth so that they buy other shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hell of a marketing range. You have to
It
add
is.
a lot
I
of
won't
zero.
even.
Go ahead.
I won't even travel with that damn thing.
Oh no, absolutely not.
It would be in like one of those glass cases with the laser pressure sensors, like in the stealing the Declaration of Independence movie with Nick Cage. What was National Treasure? It'd be in like that kind of case.
Yeah.
With like robots that like move it out of the way so you can.
And that would be the fake one.
Exactly.
That would be the decoy.
The real one would be in my bunker that I allegedly have up in the mountains somewhere.
Riff on my silver.
Exactly.
You'll have to add a lot of zeros onto the end of the price of a 10-cent comic book from the 30s, 40s, and 50s if you want to walk out of San Diego Comic-Con with a mint condition collector's item. The golden age of comic books area of the 4-day event at San Diego Comic Center is the Beverly Hills of Comic-Con with classic comic titles fetching prices in the 5, 6, and even 7-figure range. Believe it or not, it's difficult to keep comics in the 5-figure price range on the shelves because of their rarity and outstanding condition. It's hard to keep them in stock. If you can find something in shape, people are going to buy it. Angelos Comics has a pair of Incredible Hulk 181, which is the first appearance of Wolverine, for $37,000 and $39,000 apiece. That's chump change in this neck of Comic-Con. My best book is the sales tax on there, says Angelo. Higher grade comics owner Robert Storm sold a $100,000 Captain America #1 comic during the first hour of preview night on Wednesday evening at Comic-Con. He'll deliver another $100,000 Cap 1 comic to a customer during the San Diego event. Detective Comics copy of a 10-cent comic from 1939 detailing the origin of Batman is for sale for $200,000. A showcase comic showcasing the first Silver Age appearance of the Flash is listed at $45,000. Tales of Suspense comic featuring the first appearance of Iron Man is asking a mere $26,000.
That's it?
That's all there is.
Damn. Let me go dig out some of my gold I've buried in the yard for my retirement.
Right. Bedrock Comics of Massachusetts has a copy of Brave and the Bold 28 featuring the first appearance of the Justice League. Hey, we covered that on stream for a whopping $800,000 for a comic book. Comic book wasn't even that good.
Oh no, it was fantastic. Watch yourself, sir. That was amazing.
It was great. I think it was even better than what we read before that, but it's still like in context to some of the best stories that were ever told.
That is one of the best stories ever told. A space starfish where the Flash runs it to death. Like, come on.
All right, well, we're just gonna
and they just kind of pat Aquaman on the head and like give him a rubber ducky and say, "Yeah, you just go play in the water while we do the big stuff."
We do the big boy stuff.
What else do you want from a superhero story?
Anyway, the pricey Justice League comic sits next to the third issue of Batman that'll only set you back $70,000. and Incredible Hulk #1 for $42.50 or $42.5. Let's see. Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man from 1962, ranging from 12 to 150,000. Just because of, and again, that's another thing. 12,000 to 150,000. That's not an unheard of fluctuation in price. Depending on the grade of these books, like, you can kill the value of something very rare by not taking care of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Action Comics feature. Yeah, Action Comics #1. It's been restored to near perfect condition. Has a 450,000 comic.
Wait, restore?
$450,000 price.
How do you restore a comic book?
Carefully.
Like, I'm picturing like the pages being a little crinkled and they're sitting there with an iron on an ironing board.
I'm sure they do something about creases and whatnot. I think they actually like have a process that bleaches the pages. I'm not too familiar with it, honestly, because it's kind of a frowned upon industry as far as comics go.
Yeah, it sounds super sketchy just as a concept.
Well, that's why it's marked as restored and isn't worth the $3.5 million. It's only worth $4,500 or $45,000 or $450,000. Blah.
So now I need to look up how do you restore a comic book.
Yeah.
All right, continue.
But yeah, the highest price book at Torpedo is an amazing Fantasy Spider-Man with an out of this world price tag of $1.1 million. It's not Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man. It is Amazing Fantasy 15. You cucks. Stop telling me that it's Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man. There was never a such fucking comic book. I hate people. Speaking of cucks, Game of Thrones directors for season 8, DB, Wise, and whatever that other fuckhead name was, they dropped out of the panel at Comic-Con where they were going to be taking questions. So just to put that into perspective for everybody, these two esteemed...
I would only have one question for them.
Yeah.
How do you make a show about boobs and dragons boring as fuck?
That's a good question. It's a very good question. Also,
like, I'm almost impressed.
Yeah. Also, where exactly is the Starbucks in Westeros? I just need to know where the Starbucks is, man. I saw the cup. Where's it at? Is it between King's Landing and the north? Is it over, like, do you have to send somebody on a boat for 6 months to get a coffee from the east? What are we doing here, folks? Like, how are they getting their coffee? Because this dude had a coffee. Anyway, no, they chose to bitch out and not show up to a panel, so I thought that was just something worth mentioning. They let the actors go up there and take questions, but didn't want to face the trolls, I guess. Everything's a troll. Nothing. You got nothing for that?
No.
Okay.
I scoffed disgustedly.
Oh, okay.
I'm reading about how I'm reading how you restore a comic. It's weird.
What did Miss didn't
know.
allow him? Oh, okay. I missed a few things on the chat, so I'm just catching up. Apparently, my wife is now in the chat. Let's see. Anyway, a couple more things. We got a few more minutes to go, so we can touch on these last couple of things we've got. Talked about Star Trek Picard briefly when we were talking about the trailers, but one other thing that they revealed at Comic-Con, it's a little bittersweet, I think, because everyone loves Stan Lee, and because Mrs. Church mentioned him in the chat, I guess I can go ahead and bring this one up. Stan Lee's legacy carries on as his final projects announced at FDCC. So, it's very possible that Comic-Con International in San Diego would not be the massive cultural juggernaut today without the marvelous creations of Stan Lee. Actually, from that article we read earlier, it wouldn't be shit without Jack Kirby. Give him man some credit.
Right.
I love Stan, don't get me wrong. No disrespect to Stan whatsoever. But Jack Kirby needs a piece of that fucking pie.
Yeah, his drug-induced color ravings are fantastic in those old comics.
Oh, yeah. And the square fingers on his fucking characters. Classic. I'm not even being sarcastic.
Your fingers aren't square?
No.
Oh.
No.
I should probably go to a doctor.
You should go to a doctor for the bleach drinking, but, you know, you're not going to do that either.
That's okay. I'll counterbalance it with alcohol. Alcohol's a disinfectant, right?
Sure. At the first FDCC since the charismatic visionary's passing in November, moment of silence for Stan. At the age of 95, fans and fellow creators gathered at the panel to celebrate. It was a moment.
It was.
Celebrating Lee's legacy and the discussion of projects that discussed the project that he had been developing at the time of his death. Moderator Bob Sponi, Chief Marketing Officer of Stan Lee's POW Entertainment, which unfortunately never took off the way it should have. Well, my 4-year-old's bringing me an owl. Thank you.
At midnight, 12 o'clock?
Yeah, she's bringing me an owl and telling me all about it. I don't know. I believe there was a drink spilled somewhere, so that's going to be fantastic to find.
Have fun with that.
Oh, yeah. You got really low all of a sudden.
Am I coming through good now?
You're coming through. Can the people still hear you?
Now it says poor connection. What the hell, Skype? Screw you.
I may have.
What I thought.
Oh, there we go. I got it. That was on my end. So many volume things. My headset has independent controls from my PC. My PC has 3 sets of controls. It's a lot to take in, folks. I do this for you. I do this out of love. Or hatred. Whichever one makes you feel better.
A little bit of both.
It's very possible that blah, 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 passing in November. Moderator Bob Sabani, POW Entertainment, began the panel by describing Stan as one of the greatest human beings that I've ever had the pleasure of knowing in my life. Panelists told their stories in turn, beginning with the legendary New Teen Titans writer, former editor-in-chief Marv Wolfman, and moving through the current Marvel EICC, or editor-in-chief, C.B. Cebulski. Why don't you just say editor-in-chief? Your word count would be higher, you prick. Writer Jimmy Palmiotti, X-Men and Transformers producer Tom DeSanto, Pure Imagination Chief Content Officer John P. Roberts, Graphite Comics Tom Eckel, producer Chris Phillips, and POW Entertainment President Gil Champion. Okay. I don't know why you had to name drop all those people.
Because those names mean anything.
Right. When I was growing up, there were not many superhero comics out, Wolfman said. In fact, there were only 3, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Atlas Comics, the company that would become Marvel, was still focused on horror and romance comics. Comic publisher at the time assumed readers were between 8 and 14, and indeed, Wolfman said that he found himself restless with the medium in his mid-teens. I think if everything had been left alone within about a year, I would have left comics and been tending a vegetable stand. Reading Lee and Jack Kirby's Fantastic Four, though, changed his path. The stories brought me in, they kept me going from then until I was selling material. Stan kept me and my generation reading comics until we could enter comics ourselves and continue for the next generation. And that's a hell of a quote. let's just kind of look at that and deconstruct it for a second. I sincerely believe that, and there is no Stan Lee of our generation. Like, obviously, we were graced with the ability to have Stan Lee around in our generation, but there is no one in the industry actively creating anything that inspires anyone to get into comics anymore in the big two.
Right.
Ethan Van Sciver has inspired a lot of people to create indie comics on Indiegogo and part of Comicsgate and Kickstarter and all that stuff. And that's done a lot for the industry. But again, how sustainable is that model?
Yeah.
What were you going to say? You almost...
Oh, I was going to say, and that in itself isn't enough, but you kind of beat me to it.
Yeah. Well, it's not that it's not enough. I mean, it's fantastic. And I think that if you have the creative drive and you have the ability and the patience to create a comic book, do it. But the thing is this comment right here, the stories of Jack Kirby and Stan Lee kept a generation of comic creators reading comics until they entered the industry and started creating comics themselves. Where did we fall off from that? Where did we get lost from that path?
Yeah, well, I think it's not just comics. You see that in all through every creative industry. I mean, look at modern art.
Well, I don't know that I agree with that. There are dozens of people beating down the doors for a fucking unpaid internship at a movie production company. You know, there's never going to be a shortage of people that want to be producers and directors, as long as there is a Hollywood. Actors are the same thing. However, comic creators, like, why would you want to be a comic creator when you could just go create a comic book movie? But eventually, we're just going to be remaking Superman 1 and fucking Batman 1. Like, we're just going to
over and over and over and over and over.
Right. We're just going to keep the cycle going with comic books at this point. So, Palmiotti described his story of meeting Stan Lee for the first time in 1990 and bringing his work into Marvel's offices. He saw Lee from a distance. He's like a football field away. But as Stan began walking towards him, Palmiotti recalls, I had about 2 minutes to decide what I was going to say. Stan came up to him all smiles and said, Jimmy Palmiotti, how great to meet you. Oh my God, Stan Lee knows my name. Palmiotti was shocked. Stan abruptly turned around and began walking away before turning back to the astonishing young artist. I bet you're wondering how I know your name, Lee said, according to Palmiotti. I heard you'd be coming into the office today, so I cut a picture out of Wizards magazine so I'd know who you were. Now I don't need this picture anymore. That is fucking fantastic. Stan Lee was a fucking national treasure, if that's a true story. Oh my God.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's amazing. DeSanto, who was responsible for beginning the tradition of Stan Lee cameos in Marvel movies, remembered that Lee was initially reluctant to the idea, but after seeing himself as the hot dog vendor in X-Men, Lee said, in the next movie, how about give me a line? Describing Lee as like Jim Henson or Walt Disney, and the characters he created would continue to live and grow. Savani said there was a treasure trove of his unreleased material. Champion, the president of POW, introduced some of that work, but not before revealing the first look at Stan Lee wax figure that will debut at Madame Tussauds in late 2019 or early 2020. That makes me happy. Oh man, I hope they put a pin in his hand. They should put a pin in his hand so that he can be standing there like signing something for you.
They really should. I mean, if they don't, that's a missed opportunity.
I'm not going to get too far into this. There are a lot of things that he had he had in the works, and I encourage everybody to look into that. But I just wanted to touch on some of the stories that people told about him, because I found that just, I mean, it was touching. Like, to hear people just recount the stories of meeting him and working with him, and how he was in life. Lee in the chat talking about how the kids are getting manga centric, and somebody has actually requested us talk about the influx of manga. It may even have been Lee. The influx of manga versus comic books, and how manga may be taking over the manga, however you want to say it. I'm from the South, people. I've told you this. The manga is kind of taking over the comic book industry, and you know, I think that's based more on consistency than anything else. I mean, I'll speak on it just a moment because he brought it up in chat. But I think that's just because of the consistency of the artwork, the consistency of the storytelling, the lack of, you know, identity politics that weren't part of the story to begin with. Hell, I saw it earlier today. There was another Captain Marvel reference where they tried to insert the idea of illegal immigration to aliens in Marvel Comics, talking about how Captain Marvel wasn't welcome.
Oh, jeez.
So, I don't know. I'm over it at this point. Like, I've gotten to the point where I think that people are just going to find shit to be outraged over. And there's nothing you can really do to change their minds about it. People are just going to be pissed off about what people are going to be pissed off about. But
now, where would you classify like Usagi Mishima at? Because
Usagi Yojimbo?
Yeah, issue 2 came out this relaunch.
Yeah,
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good, but you would call that an American comic technically, but it has that manga feel.
A manga is something that's meant to be read from left to right instead of right to left, or vice versa.
I think that's how the Japanese write.
What?
Well, like Japanese language is written right to left.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying, like, their comic books, they start in the back. Like their manga, it's a backwards book.
Yeah, but isn't that just because of the nature of the language?
I have no idea. Like, I've never really been that interested in manga.
I had an ex who was a bit of a weeb. Also had two pets. Had 2 pet snakes too. She was kind of crazy.
Your microphone is not letting me hear half of what you're saying, but I agree with it.
God damn it!
I agreed with it.
But
I don't know what your problem
thought
is.
The backwards thing was the audio issues.
Yeah.
But I thought manga was like the overall like style, like not just the
even when they
backwards.
Well, even when they translate it to English, it still reads that way. Like next time, like just go to a Books A Million. Books A Million's pretty good on their manga collection, and just check out a manga.
Yeah, I know they read backwards, but I didn't think that was like the defining characteristic.
I mean, to me it is, unless somebody else has something.
Yeah.
And like that format is manga. But
there was more than that, like the whole, like all of it, like the art style and the storytelling style and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all kind of intricate or integral to the format of the medium. But again, like I say, I think that people are moving over to that for a couple of reasons. I think that it has to do with anime being more predominant in American culture than it was 20, 30 years ago. I think it has to do with the fact that comic books have gone down in quality. And I think it has to do with the fact that there's a consistency in the artwork and the storytelling that you just don't get with comic books anymore. So, but, I mean, I'll definitely look into it further so we can have a little more of an in-depth conversation about it. We might even read some manga for the show at some point in time.
Apparently One Piece is a good one, according to one of my friends who reads it.
Hellsing is one of my favorites, so. But
the One Piece show was fun, you know, pirates with weird abilities.
Yeah, so was the Hellsing. I enjoyed One Piece. I enjoyed Hellsing. I enjoyed Serial Experiment Lane. The Slayers was an older anime that I liked. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, I watched Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon as a kid.
Weebs will call you out on that one. Apparently Dragon Ball is not the epitome of anime like we all thought it was when we were younger. I think it's probably the closest thing you can get to an American cartoon out of an anime.
It still comes from Japan. And is dubbed.
I mean, yeah, I guess. Oh, man. But no, I don't know. All in all, the manga thing, you know, and this is a complete diversion from everything. I think we're almost out of time as far as talking about any other topic, so we might as well wrap the show on this. But no, the manga thing, it never really appealed to me. But I think that was because I grew up in a household with comic books. You know, my grandfather wouldn't know what an anime is. I also don't know that Afro Samurai was an anime, but I really enjoyed that too. I think it was an American animation that was meant to look like anime.
Okay.
But it was a lot of fun. It was Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, well, that's always a win, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, until recently. But
English, motherfucker. Do you speak it?
That looks like a mighty fine burger. You quoted what?
Oh, we quoted that line from Pulp Fiction a lot when we were down in Peru.
Oh, yeah. No, Lee Walton in the chat says DBZ was my childhood, Naruto was my teens, and Full Metal Alchemist and Afro Samurai in adulthood. Speaking of Naruto, we talked a little about Area 51 just in passing earlier. Mr. Anti-Bully on Twitter has apparently found some photos of the debriefing of the Air Force going through Area 51.
Oh, so funny.
Did you see that?
Yes.
Our forces are being taught how to counter the Naruto run, so it no longer will be effective. So, just maybe think up a new plan on that one, boys, because the Army's going to be ready for your weeb shit.
And you know, like, that's true, right? Like, the Air Force is having special training to deal with this.
Oh, sure, yeah. Like,
so that means somebody had to explain to some grizzled old general what a Naruto run was.
Yes, yes, and it's almost as good as the definition of cuck being in the lol suit. I want to see the declassified military documents.
Oh, it's great. Did you see somebody, like some Air Force grunt, post? I don't know what exactly it was, but he posted a picture of them in a briefing, like, "Thanks, you assholes." Like they're literally training the Air Force on how to deal with this. This is the greatest prank of all time. I love it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I can't wait to see it. Like I can't wait because you know the news is going to be there. You know there's going to be live coverage.
Oh, I would hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know there's going to be
live. Better be.
Yeah, live coverage. I mean, one way or another, we're finding out if there's aliens in that motherfucker. But anyway, one last thing. Lee in the chat says that the internet's battle plan, the Kyles are going in first. The air will stink of cordite, smoke, blood, and monster energy. And the guy that started all of this is scared shitless. Oh, this is fantastic. If celebs show up, it'll be the first mass suicide by mass shooting. Ooh, I disavow any shootings and suicide. But
I mean, well, you know, technically, the Area 51 people will win if Chuck Norris and Keanu Reeves actually show up like they said they're going to.
You know, and then the crew from The Office minus Jim. I mean, Dwight Schrute shows up and everybody's screwed.
See, now we just need to get Nick Offerman to be on board with it.
He's too busy drinking Lagavulin 16.
True.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I definitely appreciate everybody coming out and dealing with our Boomer Power Hour here.
See, and now we're going to go to the ASMR voice. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the show today. Not sponsored by Blue Coal.
That's right. Not sponsored by Blue Coal today. But next week we'll be back with more Gospel of Radio. But until then, I will go ahead and play us out. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you again, Ayrton.
Thank you.